Hello, fellow knife nerds. Got a different one, got a completely different brand, although I suspect it might not be. So we're gonna find out. So this one was from Amazon. I've ordered two of them. The first one came in, the other one will come in either tomorrow or Friday. So we'll have a second review then for the other one. But let's see, what did I pay for this one? Let's see, this was $29 on Amazon Prime. So let's open it up. Let's see what it is and see if we like it and any other thoughts that pop into my head. From a company called Brother, another Chinese brand. The specific model is that. Does it have any other better name? What was it called? The Brother 1512. All right. It's black G10 handles. We'll get into the specs in a minute. You can't see the rest of the logo here, but it's one knife, one life. I don't know. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what it is, compare it, and all that good stuff. So we'll see if this is Micarta or the G10 one. I forget which one I ordered. All right. Plain cardboard box. Comes with a drawstring sack. Don't know what you'd use that for, but I guess you could use the sack for something. Simple wrapper. Quite a lot of oil on that. Let's clean that up just a little bit. All right, let's see. Open the blade and get the oil off that. And then we'll go through it. Already I can tell, I think I'm gonna like this, and I think you will too. So let's get rid of the last of that oil. I'll do a better job of cleaning it later. Get a little rubbing alcohol, get it off the surface itself. So let's go back and let's start with what it is. This is a lockback. It's very light. I wanna say it's around 3 ounces. So not as light as a bug out or something like that, but it is very small, very thin. I wouldn't say it's too small. It's actually just very thin. These grips here appear to be, I guess those are G10. So you can get it in both. There's a G10 version, there's a Micarta version. So this is the G10. The other version is the Micarta, and that's like a olive drab. I like the black look better. You've got a little bit of an inlay right there. Looks pretty good. All of the edges are nicely beveled, and you got pin there, pin there. None of them are proud. You can't feel them. They're not sticking out. So I did a good job of making everything flush. Same thing with that shield thing there. Let's see, you got a brass and then steel in the middle, and that's also polished pretty smooth. So cool. So let's open it up. So it is a standard lockback. It uses a 440C blade. They have other steels you can get on some of the other knives. I think the one that's coming, that costs closer to $40, that's coming later this week, that one is, I believe, VG10. So we'll go over that when it comes in. So it is a lockback. Not bad. Lockback is, the lock action is really good. Actually has less wiggle. This one has just a little bit. That's a Rough Rider Reserve 007 in D2 steel, and that's got Micarta, and it's a nice little lockback knife. And this is a tighter lockup, no left to right wobble. This one does have some. So I got this because the price. It's a nice light little knife. It is a lockback, but it's in your more traditional style. So doesn't look as intimidating when you pull it out of your pocket. That's the thing with some of the nicer one-handed opening tactical knives is depending on where you are when you open it. Some people are like, what's this guy doing with this crazy knife? Even though we all know it doesn't make a difference, but perception is reality for a lot of people, whether you're talking about knives, guns, whatever, right? So a lot of times I'm actually carrying, this is probably one of my favorite ones lately. I may be wondering, why am I wearing a Band-Aid? And that's because I was sharpening this sucker, and when I went to close it, my hand slipped, and it went and closed right on the end of my finger and took a nice chunk out of the end of my fingertip. But I've been carrying this one a lot. I love this Barlow style with the extra blade. And so I saw this, and I just started looking at some of the similarities, and I wondered if they might even be part of the same company. Now, the design on this one is a little different, but when you see the one that's coming on Friday, I won't spoil it, you'll see what it is when it gets here. I'm wondering if they're the same company as Rough Rider or made in the same factory. And you'll see on the other one, it's going to look very similar in, not the design. The design is its own, it's a bit different. But as far as the materials and how it's executed, it looks a lot like Rough Rider Reserve and this other company. There might be some commonality between them. But this is the cheaper one. If I didn't have the Band-Aid on there and I cleaned all the oil off, I have seen people able to kind of pinch it open and do it one-handed. But it opens very easily. The lockup is nice and tight. Doesn't quite swing free, but the blade is fairly loose, which is nice, but it doesn't have any wobble. So I have a feeling as this gets cleaned up and kind of worn in, you might be able to push the lock and have the blade start to swing on its own. So that's a really nice action. There are, I believe, I don't know what washers are in there. This one, it might not be anything. It might just be, unless they're recessed in there, this one doesn't appear to have any washers in there. The other one I believe that's coming does have phosphor bronze washers. But it's got a stop pin, so that will hit so that you don't get that blade slap. You don't have to worry about the metal edge hitting anything up inside there. I do like when they do that because I have had knives, like the case knives, don't have this. When you look down in there, you see those stop pins. Those are great because they engage right here, so the metal bangs into that metal and doesn't ding up your edge. I have several case knives, and even my more expensive Bokers that are over $100, the trappers and stuff, Stockmans, when you let it snap shut, the blade is actually hitting that little hump down in there where the spring is. And because the pin has to go through the spring, they had to thicken it there so it wouldn't be a weak point, right? So that hump was smacking into my edge, and I kept noticing, I was like, I just sharpened this thing. Why is there a big flat spot and a ding in the edge? Well, the Rough Rider Reserves don't do that, which is really nice. They put those stop pins in there, and for $35 for a Rough Rider Reserve, and I don't have to worry about that. They do the same thing here. They put in that stop pin. So you can have that walk and talk and have that really good sharp clack you can hear across the room that some people enjoy. I don't really care much, but to some people that's important. They think it's a sign of quality or just the snappiness or the smoothness of the action. So I get it, it's fine. But this one, again, uses that same stop pin. So I see a bunch of similarities here. This one does look different style-wise to those because of the way it does the pivots and stuff. But when you see the other one that's coming, you may agree with me that it might be part of the company. I haven't been able to confirm that. A lot of times in those Chinese factories, they may have one factory cranking out knives for different companies. So I think there's some similarity. Fits in the hand really nice. It's smooth. There's no pocket clip. On traditional knives, it's not unheard of, but it is unusual. You typically don't see those types of pocket clips and things, but that does keep it looking more traditional. It does have, it sits nice. You just throw it in your pocket, but it does have a really nice feel. There is no hot spot. That is far enough back that you would have to be, I can't grip it. Let's see. I can grip it enough to loosen it, but I'm gripping that as hard as I can, and I'm not gripping it hard enough to unlock it. So I feel like that's pretty damn safe. You'd have to be doing something really wonky. That's a fairly stiff spring, but not overly stiff. But just where it is, you'd really, you'd have to almost like get your finger down in there and be prying with it or something, I think, to get that lock to come loose accidentally. But when you want to unlock it, boop, it does come undone very simply. So nice action, very snappy. Blade is... you're just so about 3.3. You're almost 3.5 inches on the blade, just a scooch under. Your actual cutting edge is just over 3 inches. It's about 3 1/8. Overall length is about 7 5/8. So it's right in that perfect EDC size. This is right around the size of a bug out. It's a little heavier, but we're talking like an ounce. The bug out is incredibly light. This is just a little bit heavier, mainly because you got the steel here and you got the steel back spring. If you didn't have that, the rest of this is G10 and whatever polymer that is underneath. So fairly strong. It doesn't flex a lot because you do have that metal spine. It adds a little bit of weight, but it's not terrible. This is a very light little knife. But it's very clean. I like the design. Unlike this, it doesn't have any blade wobble. And that's just kind of the luck of the draw when you have knives, you know, when you've got modern knives that you can adjust the pivot, it's never a problem, especially when you're using ball bearings. You can turn them down a good bit and there'll be no blade wobble while still being really smooth action. Here, you know, if you want it to look flush and make it look like it's, you know, you don't see the pins or any of that stuff, they basically make it, press it together, and then polish it. So you don't even see the pins here, really. So it has that nice traditional look, but then whatever wobbles there, it's there. You know, I don't know of any way to get rid of that. I think that unless you are prying or more particularly twisting, you're not going to, because those ends are peened over a bit. They're mashed, flared out a bit, and then they polish it. But there's, even though it's flush, there's still a bit of it that's mashed and widened and gripping that bolster. So unless you're like really doing some twisting, you shouldn't loosen up a knife much over time. But you might over, you know, time get a little bit. This one out of the box had a little bit of wiggle. This thing really doesn't. So let's grab a little Post-it. I need to get some more printer paper in here to do a proper sharpness test, but let's see. I mean, it feels plenty sharp. It's a high grind all the way up to the spine, it looks like. Very small swedge. I would say that the only downside to that is, I guess, my sharpening system here. I guess I could grip it right about there and I'd get enough of the flat spot to keep it from, I have that problem with my Spydercos because they do that high grind, which is great for slicing and stuff. But then when you want to clamp this on, it wants to rock. You need a flat surface. So I guess there's just enough. I'll be able to get that on there and use that sharpening. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Whoop. I don't know what I did there, but yeah, that's plenty sharp. Push test. We'll do a push test. Let's get a fresh edge. That's the edge with the adhesive. Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty sharp blade right out of the box. I really like that. 29 bucks. The other one I'm getting is, I think, the 1505 Max or something, which is going to be a lockback, a little bigger, heavier duty, more like this. But for just a small, you know, you got a little bit of blade flex because it's a fairly thin blade. But it's a nice blade. That should make it's a nice piercer. It's got a nice sharp point. You got a little bit of belly. It's thin. That should be a great everyday carry, just kind of, you know, traditional looking with a little bit of modern touch. That's what I kind of liked about it, was it has that profile. I feel like they should have done something here with with this. Here, at least, you know, you've got the Rough Rider Reserve emblem there. I don't know, maybe that's there in case you wanted a laser engrave or, you know, do some kind of engraving or something. But everything feels good. The pins aren't proud. Everything's flush on the back. Everything's rounded nice. This, you know, sometimes you see that gap, and so sometimes that spring sticks up a little bit and you'll catch your thumb on it. But they've done such a good job of radiusing that there's, you feel as you go over it, but there's no sharp edge there. There's nothing catching on it. You'd have to kind of go this way with your fingernail and get your fingernail into it, into the gap. But if you're just running your hand over that, there's nothing. There's nothing to feel. Around this side, they did a good job of radiusing that point. All these edges are nice and smoothed. This is a really nice knife, especially for 29 bucks. I like that a lot. That's going to make it heavy into my rotation. I've been kind of more on the traditional knives lately, and this is honestly, of all the knives you see I've done, and I've got probably 60 knives sitting in a drawer, everything from $300 or $400 OTFs down to cheap Chinese knives. The one that I carry the most in my pocket over the last month has been this guy right here. I don't know, just something about it. I just really like the Barlow design, but it's bigger than a lot of the Barlows, so I can actually get a whole hand on here. The only downside is then you have this, you know, it's not uncomfortable, but it's not as comfortable as just having, you know, something like that. A single blade, you don't have that other blade pushing into your palm. But this feels a little better in the hand. I like this. I'm gonna start carrying this one, at least until the new one arrives. Whatever the newest one is, that's the one I like the best. So, but I like this a lot. I liked it so much that when I lost it, I went to the store last week and bought the last one that they had. And then I got back to my car, and sitting in my car seat was the other one. So I was like, ah, shit. Oh, well, it's a cool knife to have a spare. If I lose it, I know I already got a backup for it. So anyway, that's what we have for today. This, I'll put the link to where you can get it on Amazon. But it's a really nice little knife. It's kind of like, in my mind, just the shape of the blade, the size, the thinness and everything. If you wanted a knife like the Bug Out, that size, that thinness, that feel, but you wanted it in a traditional style lockback, but you wanted it for that roll, this is probably, of all the knives I've had, this is going to be the closest to something like a bug out. It's barely heavier. It's just that steel spring adds a little bit of weight. Not other than that, it's very light. It's super thin. Probably should have brought my bug out with me to have it side by side here, but that's okay. You've seen that video, you know the specs, you can do the math in your head. But that is the Brother 1512, one knife, one life. Whatever that's supposed to mean in 440C, feels really good. I think you'd like this. For the money, definitely would add to the collection. So anyway, stay tuned. We'll have some more stuff on Friday.